I lost my father in 2006 to suicide. Completely circumstances where he had a lot of medical issues and felt like he was a burden, which he wouldn't have been. And I was in Afghanistan when I found out the news that he died and that he had died by suicide. I had to get back to the States for the funeral, and it's not an easy task. My troops went out of their way to put a convoy together to get me to Bagram Air Force Base in Afghanistan. And first they tried a Black Hawk helicopter, but they had to use the Black Hawks for something came up. They needed them in the mountains. But I appreciate them trying. That was awesome. And so they put a convoy together for me, which does a lot of planning. It takes a lot of planning, and they did that for me. It got me to the States, and then I went back, and deeply affected me. Of course, my father, my son, my oldest son and I, Clay, folded the flag. We were both in uniform. In 2008, I had a good friend I worked with in the Air Force, and Aaron was his name, and this one's hard. He really good guy. He was an electrician. I'm in aircraft maintenance, and we knew each other from a previous base. I was the chief of maintenance in my rank. Got a call about 5:30 in the morning from the OSI, Office of Special Investigation. Chief Cole, we had a suicide in your squadron, which nothing really prepares you for that, but yet you know it could happen. And then I said, well, who was it? And they gave me the name of my friend, and I fell to the floor. But deeply affected me because nobody seen it coming in this one. Until I look back on it, I remember him. He was kind of a low-key guy, and I remember the day before he had his biggest smile I've ever seen. And he shook my hand pretty firmly, and we always shook hands and always saw each other, and we always made comments. But when I look back on it, I remember he had made his decision, I think. And then a big one for me was my son Lee, Sergeant Lee J. Cole. He was a National Guard, Colorado National Guard. He was in trouble with the law here and there, and had trouble with some emotional issues, battling PTSD, and I was in Florida, and I had talked to him weekly, and I know he had been in like a rehab, and he was in a sober home. He had some issues, but I felt like he was getting help. I felt like he knew. If I never saw suicide on that part, didn't see that coming. And Lee couldn't get a ride to Denver from Colorado Springs that day for several reasons, and he just got kind of totally fed up, and he posted a video on Facebook and it starts out, "Today I am going to die." And they say, your phone blows up. My phone just blew up out of the blue. People were calling me left and right that cared and said, hey, you got to get on Facebook. You got to see what Lee posted. I posted it. Within 5 seconds, I shut it down and tried to get a hold of him and kept trying to call him. Where he had posted the video, nobody knew the exact location. I was making calls to the police. My oldest son was making calls. Later that night, somebody got on his Facebook page. So there was a glimmer of hope that he didn't do it. And Clay and I were talking, my oldest son, I was talking to the police, and there's a volunteer unit called Angels, Missing Angels. They started going around Colorado Springs, putting flyers out looking for Lee. And so I thought maybe he didn't do it. So I was still here in Florida, making plans to fly back. Meanwhile, my oldest son took his truck out to the mountains to try to find out where he posted this video. He had an idea, but he wasn't sure. and then my nephews the next day. So we're talking 2 days now. I kept asking the police and the county to get dogs to look for him, or drones, and they finally listened to me. And I wish I had gone back to Colorado Springs right away. I didn't, because I thought he was maybe still alive, and if he was still alive, I'd be so happy. But I joked around that if he's alive, I'm going to kill him for doing this, and to us. And so the second day, they actually found where he posted the video, and I'm still talking to the police, and they're talking to the police. The third day, they did bring the police dogs, and they found the location. They sent it to me, and then there was volunteers hiking around the mountains looking for Lee. The police did come with their dogs and the drones. And just when they were just about to leave to do the search, a lady screamed out, I found him. And he had jumped off a cliff, and she had found him. And she said later, I did not go to the exact spot, but she had said later that the drone wouldn't have helped probably find him. The dogs would have. But so they called off the search, and then that's when I started to get to go to Colorado Springs. And shock isn't a word. It's beyond that. It's that's your flesh and blood, and that's like I say, I talk to him every week. Every time I go back to Colorado, I go see him. I do know one thing: each suicide, of course, is a little bit different. A little bit has its own little nuances, or because like I say, my buddy, nobody had saw that coming. Not even his wife. Not even his wife. So if she didn't see it coming, I sure couldn't see it coming. My son was a little different. And people could see that there was signs there, and that's through suicide prevention. And there's one thing like suicide prevention, like I've heard of programs like Remount, where people get horse therapy, they get with horses. And I recently just went through a program of PTSD in Boston to help with my PTSD. And on the weekend, we did like a equine therapy where I was with a horse, rode a horse. And it's out in the country, and it was just so therapeutic, so amazing. Because you just get away from the city, you get away with other vets, and you don't even really have to talk about what's bothering you, but just you're with other vets. So a suicide prevention is so, I can't even emphasize how important that is and how vital it is. And I know it saved lives. I know I got involved with Stop Soldier Suicide, and one of my efforts is when they approached me about the Black Box Project, I said if I can prevent one family from going through this, I'm in. If that's me turning over Lee's phones, forensically breaking them into him, so to speak, that it's worth it to me. And I've done that. I've done like a 100-mile run, raised money through the month. I've done things like that. And I've actually had 2 people, it's pretty emotional. I have 2 people, and one person in particular, they asked me, why are you doing all this? And I said, well, to help prevent. And all this stuff is to help prevent. And I go, I hope it's made a difference. And that one person looked at me and said, yes, I'm I'm one of those people. I'm like, wow. So my small efforts has just helped one person from committing suicide, dying by suicide. I know they hate to say the word committed suicide, than dying by suicide. I've heard different things on that, but so that's, yeah, I mean, it's so affected my life in a tremendous way.
What's up, everyone? Just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, Mudwater, for making OP22 possible. I've been drinking Mud for almost a year. It tastes great, and it gives you the clean energy without the coffee crash or jitters. Mudwater is a coffee alternative with 4 functional mushroom blends, each added with their own purpose. You've got cacao and chai for a hint of chocolate and a little bit of caffeine, lion's mane for mental focus and clarity, cordyceps for your physical support, and chaga and reishi to both support the immune system. Mud is Whole30 approved, 100% USDA organic, non-GMO, vegan, and kosher certified. One of my favorite things about Mudwater is the company culture and the fact that they donate monthly to psychedelic research, mental health research, and various treatments. Mudwater believes that psychedelics are a useful tool for those with anxiety, depression, PTSD, and other mental health issues. So click the link in our description below or go to mudwater.com, mudwtr.com to order yourself some Mudwater today. Each order comes with a cool box and a free frother. Thanks again, Mudwater.
I've done like walks through American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, where they raise money for prevention and raise awareness. And you walk with other family members and friends that have lost loved ones through suicide. You do a walk. I've done that. And then I decided to do through TAPS, Tragedy Assistance for Survivors program. They had a climb that I've always wanted to do, is Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa. And I decided to do it, dedicate it to my son, Lee. And also, though, dedicate it to all veterans that are struggling with suicide, thoughts of suicide, and family members that have had to deal with it. And to bring awareness that you're not alone. I think that's the one thing people get into a corner, and they think they're alone. They think nobody cares, and maybe they care tremendously. It's just maybe at that moment you're feeling that, but they care. And but I did that climb and honor my son, and I made it to the top with my other fellow TAPS people, climbers. I asked my son and my daughter, what do you want me to leave on the top for Lee? And my daughter painted a small rock with an eagle on it and Lee's name. And Lee loved eagles. He loved eagles, fascinated him. And so that's up at the top of Kilimanjaro right now. And what an honor, what a great feeling that I could do something. And I felt like this trip was blessed from the beginning. And I had help from Lee. I had help from others to help me do this. I really firmly believe that. And I have a sign that tells me he's okay. I have a sign that almost daily I get. And it's a miracle. And the whole story, but that is the feather. I find feathers. About 2015, as I was running, I do my runs, I would find a feather here and there. And I started to collect them. And they just represent the warrior spirit to me. Native Americans, and I admire the Native Americans, and I just would get different feathers, beautiful. Some of them beautiful eagle feathers. But I kept it a secret. What kind of guy collects feathers? Do people might think I'm kind of weird, but I put it in the garage. When Lee passed away, we went to the location where he died. And there's something about going to the exact location and memorializing and being there where he actually died. And I didn't understand that till it happened to my son. And you see crosses on the road where there's something about going to the exact spot. So we went there, and I said to nobody knew that I collected these feathers. I did it all on my own. Nobody knew it. It was just kind of real private. I didn't go around. And I said in my heart to God or to the Lord that if Lee's okay, I'll find a feather out here. And so we were out there walking around talking about Lee, went to the location where he filmed it, went to the spot, that area where he died. And about 40 minutes went by and we had to go get out of there to go to the funeral home, and still hadn't found a feather. But I wasn't too upset because I grew up in Colorado. You're not going to find a feather every time you go hiking. You're just not. If you find one, it's pretty rare. So I said, well, maybe not this trip. Maybe it'll be another trip. I'll find a feather. It's okay. I'm not But as we were walking back to the car, my daughter said, "Hey, Dad, I got something for you. I found this." And I turned around and she handed me 2 feathers. 2 feathers. And I'm like, "You got to be kidding me." And at first she thought she did something wrong. What? And I go, "No, you got to be kidding me. That's the sign. That was the sign I was looking for." And I still have those feathers near his memorial. And I have a little memorial for him. And so that started it. That started where people knew. And I have I have stories of different stories about the feathers that I've found, or they found me. And it's truly a miracle sometimes. I won't go into all the different, but I have written them out. I want to submit this article eventually. And I know some people say, "No, that didn't happen. No, there's no way that happened." And I go, "No, it truly happened to me." So the sign is the feathers. When I got ready for Kili, I would find literally dozens of feathers. And if I go out there right now, I won't find any. But I was just, this is a sign. This is a sign I'm doing the right thing. And Lee's there, wants me to do this. Other people want me to do this. And from the time I started the trip, I left this house to go to Mount Kilimanjaro. The flight, the climb, everything went perfect. Just a miracle. The day of my climb, people got to know me and they would find feathers and hand it to me as we're hiking. "Hey, I found this for you, Bill." Pretty cool. And the day of the summit day, they had the tents set up for us at 15,000 feet, and which was nice. You're pretty tired. And as I got to my tent, there's a big feather underneath right at the corner of the tent, right there. And I'm like, this is unbelievable. So it's a good feeling. It's a good, so I have that. Gives me hope. So very, very proud of my son, Lee. He was a good guy. As they say, I don't concentrate on the way he died. I concentrate on the way he lived. I concentrate if this helps anybody. On the anniversary of his death is very hard. Everybody will tell you that. Lee would not want me to, be miserable, mourning. Of course, you're going to mourn. It's natural. But he would want me to do something I enjoy. Remember how they lived. Not just how they died. And I think they would like that. And it's a complicated, and I understand suicide is very complicated. So, each person's a little different. Each person. So it's to get to that, but to reduce it, that would be fantastic. I would just do everything I can to reduce it. I would tell them, don't lose hope. Find what gives you hope and hold on to that. For me, it's I happen to be a Christian, and my faith. I pray. I get the Bible out. I read certain verses, and like Psalms 91. If you read that, it's a very, very, very powerful chapter in Psalms that comforts you. I would just say, it might seem like you're in a corner, but just try to step back and know that something better is around the corner. Or you might feel like you're boxed in and there's no other choice. And there's people that have been in those shoes. Try to talk to them. Try to reach out in the right direction, I call it. And that's the big thing. You're not alone. There's a lot of people out there, parents, that have experienced what you're going through. And on the same hand, I would tell families, don't let anybody hurry your grief. You're never going to get over it. I've learned that. You're never going to get over it, but you learn to deal with it better through time. And everybody's a little bit different. It comes in waves, like surfing. So you're going to catch a good wave and you're going to be cruising along, and then a wave will catch you and take you right off your board, and you just get back on that board. Get back on the board as soon as you can. One of my favorite memories, a little bit of Lee and my oldest son. I was a coach, baseball coach for 1 year, and and the catcher was my oldest son, Clay, and Lee was the pitcher. And I just like, how cool is this? I kind of fell into that, and Lee was started perfecting a curveball at a really young age, and very impressive. He had the curveball down, and people couldn't hit it. He was kind of what I call a man's son, and he was kind of the I didn't have to push him into any sports. He had the natural sports. He was extremely good. Just a general enthusiasm for life. He just had it. He was happy. Him and his brother were like this, really, growing up. And I was maybe tough on them sometimes, but they were very respectful. And so, I don't know, if you could ask him, make sure they had a happy childhood. Yeah, and I was always taking them places. Lee was always laughing, always happy. Oh, he could, like I say, he could come into a room and kind of light up a room. He's life of the party, as they say. Yeah, when he came in, it was life of the party, and just had that personality. You wanted to be near him. Yeah, he made you feel good. He was genuine. He was a nominated Soldier of the Month by his battalion in the Army basic training, and he got to say the Soldier Creed in front of like 1,000 troops, and he would say it, and everybody would echo it, and that's my Lee in uniform. Very proud of him. Yeah, he was a good son. He couldn't ask for a better son. Yeah, so man's son, let's say.